Hey moms, you may have seen an ad for Jesus during the Super Bowl. These black and white ads are part of a large $100 million non denominational Christian campaign that includes television, internet, and billboard ads to rebrand Jesus for the masses. We simply want everyone to understand the authentic Jesus as he's depicted in the Bible, the Jesus of radical forgiveness, compassion, and love, its website says. I want to discuss some of the pros and cons and what these ads may mean to your children so you know how to discuss it when questions come up as we see more and more of these coming out. I watched all the ads on YouTube to give a fair trial, and most of them were very good, to the point, and true theologically, even though they don't mention Jesus' divinity, they don't deny it either. They focus on his human experiences during the incarnation and his human feelings about betrayal, rejection, and other relevant topics. Some were problematic and showed an anti authority, anti religion message, which may encourage people to follow Christ, but step away from the proper authorities established by Jesus. This is summed up in the quote, "Our hope is that you see how Jesus experienced challenges and emotions just like we have. We want to provide a safe place to ask questions, including the tough ones," the website explains. "We are also about sharing Jesus' openness to people that others might have excluded. His message went out to all, and though you may see religious people as often hypocritical or judgmental, know that Jesus saw that too, and didn't like it either. Instead, Jesus taught and offered radical compassion and stood up for the marginalized." So some pros of this ad campaign is it is getting people talking about and searching out information about Jesus, possibly people who haven't thought about him for a long time, if ever. Their target audience is non-Christians, and this is an important group to reach. Speaking of target audience, my goal is to help equip parents with answers to their teen and young adult children's questions to help pass on the faith to a group so in danger of rejecting their upbringing in the faith. If you find value in what I do, please subscribe to my channel so you're notified when I have new topics. The ads speak in the language of common men, young adults, teenagers, and people who have traditionally been or felt rejected by the community. People who felt unwelcomed when they attended church will be able to relate to Jesus in a new way, and this may possibly encourage them to try again. From what I can tell, they have not condoned anything against church teaching, but are offering an invite to learn more and get connected to a church that is part of their network. These are all good things. Like St. Paul says in Philippians 1:18, the important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached. So I do not think we should harshly judge this ad campaign. I have seen Catholic bloggers criticize these ads as not telling the whole truth, not calling people to know the fullness of truth, ignoring Christ's divinity, etc. But that is not the stated purpose of the ads. Its purpose is to start the conversation and start the journey for people who may have never considered learning more to begin with. Any step they take towards Christ will allow him to move in their hearts, and we should instead pray for those who begin their journey this way to discover the fullness of truth. There are some valid criticisms and cons, though, that I want to address here. They may be misleading in certain aspects, such as being overly critical of religious people and calling them judgmental or hypocritical. Making such a blanket statement can be damaging to people who are possibly questioning the faith, and especially whether there are valid authorities to whom we must submit. This is something I would address with your children, and you can remind them of what St. Paul says in Romans 13, Titus 3, 1-3, Hebrews 13:17, and many other verses that deal with authority and proper submission to them. It is true that Jesus called out the hypocrisy of the Pharisees, but he also respected their proper authority by virtue of the seat of Moses when he said to the people, "Do and observe all things whatsoever they tell you, but do not follow their example, for they preach, but they do not practice," in Matthew 23:3. The authority of our church is based on the seat of Peter, which is a greater fulfillment of the seat of Moses, and Jesus promises to protect the church's teachings on faith and morals, and so even if we have hypocrite leaders, the dogma of the church is sound, and we must submit to the proper authority. Another con of these ads is the churches that the website directs you to do not have to profess any certain creed to make sure that they're in communion with the truth. This means that depending what church the people reaching out choose to interact with, they may be getting at best a watered-down message and at worst a false message about the truth about Jesus. This will possibly mean that they start off strong and seeking and may get turned off to the message because of so much confusion about who Jesus truly is. Or they may find teachings that satisfy their itching ears and do not preach repentance for serious sins. It is important that we evangelize as efficiently and tirelessly as our Protestant brethren as often as we can. We should defend the truth whenever someone brings up these ad campaigns and invite them to come to Mass with us, invite them to a Bible study, some type of event where they can hear the fullness of truth. It is more important than ever to live out your faith for the example of your children, your coworkers, your family, your parish, your community, so that when people are brought back into the questioning stage, we are there to help them discover the truth and answer hard questions. There are roughly 51 million Catholics in the U.S., which is about 1/5 of the population. Imagine if every one of us was living our faith authentically every day, not just going to Mass on Sunday and possibly praying daily with our families, but if every moment and every decision was influenced by our faith. Not in a preachy way, but just in simple ways like explaining why you're not interested in a new movie that's coming out due to problem themes in it, or speaking up when someone is belittling our faith or God, praying before we eat, even when in public or in mixed company, and being as joyful about Mass on Sunday as we are about the Super Bowl. Most converts, both non-believers and Protestants and reverts, attest to the fact that they converted or reverted due to a relationship with the faithful Catholic. Are you willing to be that faithful Catholic to cooperate in God's will of saving souls? As always, I'm unapologetically Mom, and you can be too. God bless. Thank you for staying till the end. If you haven't already, watch this video next for one of the most common questions that teens and young adults ask, and the question that makes the most atheists out of previous believers. Also, if you like what I'm doing, please see the description below to follow me on other platforms so that we can connect further. I'm praying for you, praying for your children and their faith, their vocations. Please pray for me, and God bless.